Okay, so what we're going to talk about in tonight's webinar is really just a broad overview about what the disciplines of civil and environmental engineering mean. I mean, you saw from Camilla's poll that we have a number of school students on the call tonight, a lot of students in year 11 and year 12 or other grades. So I guess for some students, just knowing what different disciplines of engineering are about will be one of the goals for this evening. For those students who are interested in civil engineering, we'll be talking a little bit about careers in civil engineering. For students who are interested in engineering and they're interested in some of the other programs that we offer at UTS, we'll be talking about that as well. And you just met Hayley. So Hayley's one of our undergraduate students, and she's going to deliver a presentation at the end of tonight's webinar, giving you some tips for success. How do you study engineering at UTS? And I think one of the valuable features of tonight's webinar, as it will do question and answers or a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So if you've got questions that you'd like answered, please use the chat feature for asking your questions, and we'll handle question and answers at the end of tonight's presentation. Okay, so I guess one of the key questions is what do we mean by civil engineering? I've actually got a question for the audience. Does anybody know what the first engineering discipline was? No responses on that one. Okay, so in the history of engineering, the first discipline of engineering was military engineering. Oh no, we've got something in the Q&A. That's good. Ah, yes, very good. Yes, someone did get that right. Yes, military engineering. That's correct. Yes, military engineering was the first engineering discipline. So anything that wasn't military engineering was considered civil. Okay, so in terms of modern civil engineering, the sorts of projects that civil engineers get involved in involve civic infrastructure. So, I mean, if you have a look at the situation within Australia, the government has, or the federal government has an infrastructure investment program, and they're willing to invest $120 billion worth of taxpayer money on infrastructure projects. So we're talking about how do we, build roads so that we don't get congestion in our cities? How do we, create the tunneling environments that deliver those road networks that we need? How do we, do railway systems so that we can transport goods from one city to another? So they're the sorts of projects that engineers work on, and then they need not always be transport related projects. I know I talked about roads and tunneling and railway engineering, but there's other projects that engineers work on, and maintaining a water supply for a city falls well within the realm of civil engineering. So if you don't have groundwater in a city, having a reliable water supply means you need to build a dam, you need a water treatment system, and you need to, handle, sewage waste from a city as well. So, in a broad sense, that's what civil engineering involves. It's all about civic infrastructure, and you can see on this slide that there's a whole range of, typical projects that civil engineers work on. Another one to mention is airports. So I guess in the Sydney context, you'll be aware that Sydney will be getting a second airport in Badgerys Creek in the west of Sydney. So in terms of infrastructure projects that are coming up in Sydney, that's the sort of project that, if you do an engineering degree and graduate as a civil engineer, that's the sort of project that you could find yourself working on. Now, what is environmental engineering, which is my area of speciality? In a nutshell, you could define environmental engineering as maintaining the quality of environmental fluids. So, I mean, that it's the rule of threes is always quite important. So, for example, if you didn't breathe clean air within 3 minutes, you'd be sick. So we need to maintain air quality as an environmental engineer. If you didn't drink clean water within 3 days, you'd get sick. So maintaining a quality supply of fresh water is important for cities. And if you didn't eat food within 3 months, you'd probably get a bit sick as well. So obviously maintaining the quality of soils to facilitate agriculture is also an important consideration as well. Okay, so maintaining the quality of air, water and soil resources are really important for environmental engineers, and there's a lot of opportunities in those domains and also in projects such as waste remediation, contaminated sites and things of that nature. Okay, I guess one of the questions you might have is what's actually involved in engineering. So in terms of the etymology, engineer comes from a Latin word meaning clever. So one of the defining characteristics of what engineers do is being clever and solving problems. So for those of you who are finalising your HSC this year, or you're finalising it in the next year or two, it's good to think about, okay, I'm studying these particular subjects and how does that feed into an engineering degree? So what you'll see in the middle is that scientific principles do underpin engineering. So for example, if you're going to do engineering, it's especially good to have mathematics as a subject that you like and you're doing well at, a knowledge of physics, and also you know, good performance in English as well. So in engineering, we harness those scientific principles, and that sort of underpins how do you design civic infrastructure, how do you do the analysis behind civic infrastructure and things like that. Also keep in mind that one of the defining characteristics of engineering work is that it's largely project-based. So when you're delivering projects in engineering, there's usually three considerations that you think of. So if I'm doing a project for a client, I need to make sure that my work is delivered on time, which is essentially a project management skill. I've delivered on budget, which means that you have to manage finances as you do your engineering projects, and you also have to deliver on project scope. So you can't, you know, get a tender from a company and deliver a totally different project to what they wanted. So they're usually the three you know, accountabilities of an engineering project. So you'll see in an engineering degree that there's a strong emphasis on, you know, project management, financial management, and things of that nature. Don't overlook things like communication. Like that might be seen as a bit of a soft skill, but just keep in mind that especially if you move into the consulting realm, being able to write really clear reports and being able to give really clear presentations is really, really important for you know, creating opportunities for your engineering firm, purely because quite often some of the big deliverables for those projects involve communication, like a detailed technical report, for example. So you'll notice in an engineering degree that there's opportunities for students to develop communication skills and also leadership skills as well, and that's really important because in engineering projects, it's not just you working on a project, you're working in a team. You think of those infrastructure projects that I was talking before. I mean, if you're going to get a big tunneling project going in Sydney, you've got a construction team, you've got a you know, you've got a project management team, a team managing finances and things of that nature. So for those big infrastructure projects, teamwork is really important. Okay, so we have a second poll question here, which is just launched at the moment. Which area of civil engineering are you most interested in? So we have three options: civil and environmental engineering, civil structures, or civil construction. And for those of you who aren't quite sure what those differences are, rest assured that in this presentation we'll make it clear what those different specialisations involve. At this stage, we have most people have answered that poll, and it turns out that most of the attendees in tonight's poll are interested in civil structures, and roughly an equal number of potential students who are interested in civil and environmental engineering and also civil construction. Okay, so thanks to those people who answered that poll. That's really good. Interesting results there. Okay, so we have been talking a little bit about the discipline of civil engineering and also civil and environmental engineering. At this point in the webinar, it may be that students might be thinking, well, actually, I don't mind UTS, I don't mind engineering, but I'm not quite sure that civil or civil and environmental engineering is the sort of degree I'd like to commit to. So just to keep in mind that at UTS, we offer a range of engineering degrees in different disciplines. So you can see, for example, you know, Carmela's background was in data engineering. but we also offer the main engineering disciplines: mechanical, mechatronics. Carmela's sitting in data science. We have software engineering. We have electrical. And one of our new majors for 2023 is chemical process engineering. So that's an engineering discipline where you take raw materials as an input, and then you transform those raw materials into useful products that society needs. And those products need to be safe, they need to be functional, and they need to be sustainable. And you end up working in disciplines like energy, healthcare, agriculture, and some of those big disciplines like that. We've got electronic engineering as well. But the bits in red is what we're going to focus on tonight, because as it stands, these are the two engineering degrees that we offer within our school. But just keep an eye on chemical process engineering as well. That may be of interest. We'll be offering that degree program for the first time in 2023 in autumn. One question that students quite often have is, okay, well, if I commit to one of these engineering degrees, what sort of employment opportunities exist? And what I should mention is that for both our civil engineering students and civil and environmental engineering students, local government is a big employer of our graduates. So for a city council to develop and maintain civic infrastructure, they need people with civil engineering knowledge to be able to provide those functions for the people who live in those cities. There's other opportunities. One thing to keep in mind is that one of the good things about engineering, and in particular civil engineering, is that you don't have sort of like a fixed role. I mean, your role could be office-based, it could be site-based, or it could be a combination thereof. And the fact that you've got the opportunity to work in different environments in your career can be attractive for those people who like variability in the sorts of roles that they undertake. Government is quite often a big employer of our graduates. So we're talking about state and federal government agencies, but a lot of our students also end up working in consultancy or in design firms. And there's also other opportunities as well. We've had some students who've ended up working for non-government organisations, in the environmental engineering area, looking at pollution justice issues and looking to improve living conditions for people in developing economies. So you can see on this slide that there's a broad range of opportunities for students who study in the degree areas that we offer within our school. Majors and specialisations. So you just saw from my second poll that we gave you a poll on which engineering specialisation would you like to choose, but we didn't quite define what they were. So I should just define those now. So civil construction. So what does that involve? That means that students in that specialisation focus on the analysis, the management skills, and the design that sits behind construction practices as a civil engineer. That's what civil construction is, and that's quite often an attractive option for our students, because construction management is quite often a big employer of our graduates, and that's good for students because they get variability in the sort of work that they do day to day. They're not confined to purely an office-based environment. They get to do site work, they get to manage contractors, and they get to oversee the use of budgets and resources to deliver a construction project. Civil structures, on the other hand, so what we're talking about there is the modelling, design and analysis that sits behind building structures. So, the usual sorts of suspects. So it could be a high-rise apartment block, it could be, office blocks, or residential apartments and things of that nature. So that's how we sort of differentiate construction from structures. They're related, but structures is a bit more modeling based compared to construction, which has the technology and management perspectives with it. The civil and environmental engineering major I talked a little bit about before, but that's actually a major that we offer within our school, and that's quite often a natural choice, because if you're working on infrastructure projects, one of the really important considerations is to make sure that the environment isn't affected as you undertake that project. So, I mean, you think of a road construction project, you need to make sure that the project doesn't create waste or dust or noise. because you've got, you know, residents who live near those environments where that construction project is taking place. So civil and environmental engineering quite often go together quite well in engineering projects, which is why we offer that that offering as a major. Another question students quite often have is, what does the degree actually look like? So what we're looking at here is the Bachelor of Civil Engineering, also with the Diploma in Professional Engineering Practice. So everything's color-coded here. So for example, the red bits, this is engineering core. So these are subjects that all students do. After completing core subjects, students build upon their knowledge in what we call the field of practice, which is these darker grey boxes. The specialisation stream is populated by your choices. So for example, if you're doing the construction or the structures stream, when you get to the specialisation stream component of your degree, those subjects get populated with your specialisation choice. All students can choose electives up to 4, any 4 subjects within the university. But if you're more technically oriented, you may choose to choose the electives within our faculty, which is FEIT. You can see these really dark grey bits. This is the Diploma of Professional Engineering Practice. So you'll see here that in stage 4 and stage 8 of your degree, you'll be doing those 2 6-month internships, which Camilla was referring to earlier. And the benefit of that is that our students quite often have employment contracts negotiated by the time they do that second internship, which means that when they commit to their final year of the degree, students need to finish their final year, which includes a final year capstone project, which is a research project shown in blue, and then they commence their employment with their employer that was negotiated after their second internship. Civil and environmental engineering has the same elements to it. You'll notice here that the civil and environmental engineering degree program doesn't offer electives. So you'll notice here that the specialist stream subjects are populated in the final year of this degree, but the concepts are all the same in terms of core subjects, the project, and the fields of practice, and also the requirement to do the diploma in professional engineering practice. Okay, a few more details about this. So you'll notice that with our diploma in professional engineering practice, students are doing a 6-month internship in stage 4 of their degree, and they also do another 6-month internship in stage 8 of their degree. And it's a really good opportunity for students to get experience as an engineer while they're doing their degree. And one of the benefits of our internship program is that quite often students can re-navigate their career within the context of their degree. They might say, "Oh, I really want to work on structures, and I really want to get into the modelling and the analysis that sits behind like high-rise buildings." They might do an internship and go, "Actually, no, I'm not really so keen on it. I didn't like the firm. I didn't really like the day-to-day work." And then by the time they study some extra subjects and do their second internship experience, they go, "Actually, no, I'd like a more outward-facing role. I might actually try." Let's say, for example, a construction management role. It might involve a combination of office and field-based work. I get to manage budgets and I get to manage teams and resources, and they might actually find that suits them better. So I think the key point there is that you've got a chance to re-navigate which direction you think you might go in professionally when you finish your degree by doing the internships. The faculty has a very extensive database of companies that we have a working relationship with. So we've got an industry network that sort of grows by the day, and we've got well over 1,000 companies that we have a working relationship with. And should emphasize that students plan their own internships. So that's something that you can start thinking about as soon as you start your degree. And you know, the better planning you do early on sets you up for a really good internship experience. Okay, so at this stage, I am going to hand over to Hayley. She's going to deliver her student presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Camilla will be able to get Hayley connected again with the presentation.
Hi guys, so as I said before, my name's Hayley, and I am currently studying a Bachelor of Civil Engineering and Business Finance. In my second year, I think, I started an internship in a civil contracting company for earthworks. I did that for a month or two, And then sadly, because of COVID, I had to give up on it because they mostly worked at the office and everything. And then while COVID was still going on, I got the chance to work with one of the professors from Faculty of Engineering IT to study a bit more about membrane technology, which was kind of a bit more out of context with my civil degree. But yeah, I did that for 3 months, I think, and that was technically my internship. As a double degree student, you don't get to do the diploma unless you add it on, and it becomes 6 years instead of 5 years. But we have to do a compulsory 3-month internship instead of the 12-month. But yeah, and then now I work at a civil consulting company, which Nick talked about, the different areas that you can go into civil. And I work closely with Transport New South Wales, which is what Nick was talking about like the government and stuff, and they have a lot of roles and stuff too. Society-wise, I joined Engineering Society in my first year. I joined a lot of social societies, which was like more like dance ones and everything. And I think like a big tip is to make a lot of friends and everything when you're studying engineering or business or anything. There is a lot of group work and everything, and I think that if you have a group of friends and everything, it's so much easier to help each other out and do work. And the best way to find friends is going to class and also societies. I met a lot of people through societies, and I think that's one of like the main reasons I've had so much fun at uni and how unis went so well for me. I think I also, in my first year, I went to a few networking events run by UTS Careers. They really helped a lot because they had a lot of professional industry speakers and stuff, and then you would get to network with them. That's also a really, really good way to find an internship. So thank you. I'm going to pass it back on to Carmela to talk to you guys a bit more about how to get in.
Thanks, Haley. Yeah, hopefully you guys got a lot of information from that, from both Nick and Haley. So we'll just move on with our presentation to talk about ATAR and adjustment points. So I know a lot of you guys here are currently in year 12, and with ATARs and selection ranks, they can be two very confusing terms. And basically, a selection rank is very much different to an ATAR. So a selection rank is a combination of your raw ATAR that you obtain the week after you get your HSC results, plus your adjustment points, or what you guys might know as bonus points from your UAC rounds. So these points are basically added to your raw ATAR, which is capped at 13 adjustment points here at UTS, which can be obtained through a number of different factors and schemes, which includes completing the engineering and IT questionnaire, which I definitely recommend. Good results in relevant HSC subjects, which is what we call the year 12 subject scheme, your gender and special circumstances, and very much more schemes as well. If you guys are interested in learning about what's the difference between ATARs and a selection rank and what adjustment points is available at UTS, feel free to take a photo of the QR code on the screen or check it out on our website. So now we'll just quickly go through UAC key dates. So for those who are currently in year 11 and 10, this might not be as applicable to you guys, but this might give you some insight once you guys do get into your year 12 stage. But basically, if you guys are currently in your final year of high school and is sitting your HSC this year, there are basically multiple offer rounds that UAC basically goes through after you sit your HSC exams. And basically with each of these offer rounds, you are more than welcome to change your preferences of your undergraduate degrees between each of these offer rounds. But it is very important to note that you will need to change your preferences before the closing date of that particular offer round, because it will be locked in until the offer rounds have passed for that week. But please note that if you guys are interested in scholarships, which I saw that a couple of you guys are really interested in, we do have scholarship applications currently open. So if you guys would like to learn more about what scholarships we have available for current high school leavers, please feel free to browse that on our website for more information, including eligibility criteria and the application process. For those of you guys that have been waiting for UTS to have an on-campus open day, we are really proud to announce that we do have an open day locked in, which is the 27th of August. So even if you are not in year 12, you are year 11, year 10, a teacher, even a parent, you're more than welcome to visit our campus on that day. And you might see myself and other students. And feel free to just talk to us if you do have any questions on those days. Of course, you do have your HSC exams in October and November with your ATARs and scholarship offers released in December. But for more information, please feel free to visit our website or even the UWAC website for more details. Additionally, something that we did bring back from last year is a UTS Early Entry round. So if you guys are in your final year of your high school year, you're in year 12, you are current domestic and international onshore student, you will be eligible for this UTS Early Entry program. And application is very easy. All you have to do is apply through the UTS online application portal, which is very different from the UWAC application portal that you will need to basically make applications for us for those UWAC rounds. It is free to apply, and the applications will open around June and July and will close in September. Dates are yet to be confirmed, so just keep an eye out on our website and in our socials for more information. Additionally, if you are successful in the UTS Early Entry program, provisional offers will be released in October before you even sit your HSC exam. Basically, once you do get your provisional offers, you must complete the HSC or equivalent, which includes the IB if you do fall into that category. But yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about the UTS Early Entry program, please feel free to scan the QR code again for more information or visit our website. In terms of student support services, we do have multiple student support services that support myself and my peers, such as bridging courses offered in mathematics, physics, and chemistry. I actually took a bridging course in my very first year before I started studying at UTS in Extension 1 and physics as well. And it was something that I decided to do, and it truly did help me in my first year subjects. So I definitely recommend you guys, if you do feel like you would like to do bridging courses, I definitely recommend it. On top of that, we also do have UPass, or what we call peer assisted studies, study success, which is available for selected subjects, which is basically free tutoring classes, which is run by high performing students from previous years, who is teaching again to make sure that you guys get the best out of that subject. We do have other student support services such as UTS Helps and also societies, which you can find more information on the UTS website.